Let's talk about intermittent fasting. You've probably heard of it. How I first stumbled upon it, it was Hugh Jackman doing, I think it was The Wolverine, which was the second Wolverine movie, not Wolverine Origins. And I remember him talking about getting the diet from Dwayne The Rock Johnson, which at the time I was a massive Rock or Dwayne Johnson fan. And then I heard about this 8-hour diet thing and started researching it and found out about intermittent fasting. I was like, oh fuck, okay. A lot of what I heard made sense for me and I thought I'll try it out. A lot of people kind of touted it as skipping breakfast and only eating within a certain time window. And some people even called it biohacking. Some people have been very bold to say it's the secret to fat loss, secret to longevity, and the secret to endless energy. However, other people just think it's starving with a trendy name. So in this video, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to talk about a bit of my experience, how it works, the benefits, the downsides, and whether you should even think about it. Intermittent fasting, or IF as it's also known, isn't a diet in the sense of what you eat. It's more about when you eat. Now, there are different approaches. There's a 16-8 or the 8-hour diet, which was you fast for 16, eat all your meals within the 8 hours. 5-2 method, where you eat normally for 5 days a week and then very low calories. We're talking 500 to 600 calories for 2 days. Alternate day fasting, 1 day normal eating, 1 day fasting, or incredibly low calories again. And 1 meal a day, pretty self-explanatory there. And then there was kind of prolonged fasting, which was 48 hours or 72-hour fast and all that, and then you kind of eat normally. So IF is about creating an eating pattern that alternates between periods of fasting and eating, essentially. Now, the main result of that is you're more likely to be in a calorie deficit without consciously restricting food. So what are some of the benefits to intermittent fasting? Possibly fat loss. Probably one of the main reasons why people do intermittent fasting is, yes, it can help fat loss. By eating a smaller window, most people will naturally eat fewer calories. Studies have shown that intermittent fasting is just about as effective as daily calorie restriction for fat loss. The real trick is whether you can stick to it. Another potential benefit is blood sugar control. Intermittent fasting can improve insulin sensitivity and lower blood sugar levels, especially in overweight people or those with insulin resistance. Another potential benefit, heart health. Some studies show improvements in blood pressure, LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides. But again, a lot of those benefits come down to overall calorie reduction and not from the intermittent fasting itself. One of the hyped up potential benefits is longevity and cellular repair. This is where intermittent fasting gets most of the hype. In animal studies, fasting has been linked to longer lifespans because of something called autophagy. Autophagy is where your body cleans up damaged cells. But here's where I'm going to throw a spanner in the works, because autophagy isn't unique to intermittent fasting. You can get that just from your calorie restriction and also from training. So this isn't really a benefit in my book, but it's what gives it a lot of hype. What is a benefit of it, in my eyes, is the simplicity. You don't have to meal plan. There's no tracking macros. Just skip breakfast or delay your first meal. That is if you're just looking for weight loss, and I do mean weight loss. If we're looking to modify that so that an individual can build muscle, keep muscle, and look good naked, then we'd probably look at macros, hold on to macros, and develop a good amount of protein, a good amount of fat and carbs, but put that in an eating window. However, the simplicity of just eating this eating window, eat your normal food and you'll lose a bit of weight, that is true. That will happen. As long as you're eating the same meals that you would have eaten before. Because what a lot of people will tend to do is go the entire day, do like an OMAD thing, go the entire day, no food, and then just shit ton of junk. Pizza, ice cream, cookies, whatever. And now, let's say we're taking 2,500 calories of whole food diet. So, you know, like chicken, rice, good vegetables, some pasta even, if you want to throw it in there, some sandwiches. You take that. If we condense that into 8 hours, naturally, you're probably going to eat a little bit less, and that will put you in your calorie deficit, right? But if you now go, well, fuck that, I'm starving. Ooh, pizza. Ooh, this. Ooh, that. And you start eating all these calorically dense foods. And all of a sudden, instead of your 2,500, you're now having 5,000 calories, which is double your 2,500. And you keep that going for a couple of days. Yeah, you're going to fucking put some weight on. So it's simplicity in terms of taking your existing diet and put it there. However, it's not simplicity in terms of I don't need to think about what I'm eating and I can eat absolutely whatever the fuck I want. There's a few situations because someone like me, I can't do that. I can very well eat 5,000 calories in one sitting. I've done it before. However, for some people where appetite isn't as big, they might be able to get away with it. So you need to take this with a pinch of salt. But there are potential benefits for that in terms of that simplicity, but there's also potential downfalls for it. So just understand that. That leads me into the actual downsides of intermittent fasting. Hunger and energy dips. Some people adapt quite quickly. Other people feel like a zombie until lunch. Headaches can be a problem. Irritability can be a problem. Cravings are common within the first week or two. But also if you're doing something really drastic, such as OMAD, then cravings can be a very big thing by the time you're getting to like 18 hours, because naturally your body starts panicking and understanding that we're not getting a lot of calories in, we're not getting any food. You know, your body's set up with a pattern. So that's where you're going to have all these cravings and you're going to be like, oh, I want pizza, I want all these calorically dense foods. And then, yeah, if you're training hard like a motherfucker and you're not getting enough food, your energy levels can dip quite a bit, which can make you irritable towards the end portion of your fasting. I could be great in the morning, But then it comes to like the last 3 hours, and then it's like, I'm fucking hungry, like leave me the fuck alone. And all I'm thinking about now is just that food, you know, when my eating window is going to happen. Workout performance. Now, training fasted can feel fine for something such as steady state cardio. However, strength training and high intensity workouts can sometimes suffer without that fuel. Now, me personally, I work out in the morning. So I would have had my dinner, gone to sleep, and then I would have slept. And then I wake up, have like a black cup of coffee, go to the gym, train. If you're doing something like that, then you're probably still going to be able to ride the food that you had last night. However, where I find it being something that you kind of don't want to do is if you're waking up, you're going through your entire day, and then you're working out, and then you're eating, because by the time you get to your workout section, as I said, you can have energy dips, you can be fatigued, you can be irritable, you can be all of this, and then you're going to go and you're going to try and work out. And especially if you're lifting heavy, that can definitely suffer without the kind of fuel. So if you have done a lot that you've managed to deplete your glycogen, you're not going to have any energy for like heavy lifting, as an example. So I don't think that would be useful there. But how I was doing it, where I worked out in the morning, it worked pretty well. So I'd work out in the morning, I'd do all my hard stuff, and then for the rest of the day, I was able to kind of plod along, right? And yeah, I just needed to have the willpower to be able to go up until whatever time I was going up until, and then that was cool. Social and lifestyle challenges, right? So skipping meals can be awkward. You know, imagine saying, no, you can't go to like Sunday brunch with people, with your friends, saying, oh, I can't eat until 2 p.m. You know, it's not exactly fun, and it's not exactly something that a lot of people understand. My response to that is, don't make it that deep. You know, end of the day, you shouldn't be going for Sunday brunch, and you shouldn't be meeting up with your friends that often. And if you do, then maybe you need to start thinking about where you're meeting your friends and make those food choices and drink choices a bit more friendly towards your goal. But then if you're doing that, then it's not that deep. You know, if you're meeting people for Sunday lunch, have fucking Sunday lunch, right? And then your Monday to Saturday, go back to your fasting window or whatever you're doing, right? I think that that's perfectly fine. Just a lot of people, they have this rigidness where they're like, oh, I'm only eating at 2 p.m. And it's like, they have to do that. It has to happen. If not, I'm fucking up. That's not consistency. Big downside, as I mentioned before, overeating in your window, right? I've already spoken about this. Some people can just take the diet that they were having and condense it into that eating window, right? Now, weird thing is, even if you were to eat the same calories, somehow there is a little bit of a benefit that you get there. Don't know why, okay? But for most people, they will tend to eat less food, right? So that will naturally put them in a calorie deficit, right? But I've had times where I've had like a mad workout, I've done bare shit, and then all I'm thinking about is junk food. And I had the mentality that, you know, I've gone all this day without eating any food. I've done this workout, I had some great PBs and all that. Yeah, I can have it. You start to justify it. And that's why I like trying out these diets, because I am now able to advise people and explain that, yeah, you're going to start trying to justify why you can have certain things. I'm not saying your diet has to be 100% clean, but there's a bit of balance, right? I use intermittent fasting even right now. I wake up in the morning, I'm not naturally hungry. I can get on with a black cup of coffee and then go. I'll go, work out, then I'll do my clients, I might do some content, I might do some admin stuff and all that. And then I might have my first meal about 1, 2, I think the latest is about 3 o'clock. And that's just because it fits my lifestyle. However, 3 p.m. up until I go to bed, which is normally about 8, 9 o'clock, I will eat, right? And I'll try and get my macros in and fit everything in that window. This is not me trying to do this for fat loss. This is simply because for me to eat between me waking up and 1 p.m., that is something that I need to plan. I need to actually sit down and do, right? I don't have the time for that. I'm not saying this is something I do every day. This tends to happen on Monday to Friday. And then a Saturday, again, I wake up. If I'm not really hungry, I'll ride it out. I'm not, there's no big thing for me to have breakfast. However, if I wake up on a Saturday and, for whatever occasion we're going to a place that we can get unlimited breakfast and all that, I'm going to have my fucking breakfast. So it's a bit of give and take, okay? But it's something that just works for my lifestyle. If it's something that works for your lifestyle, try it out. However, don't be rigid about it. Use it as a tool. You can combine these diets and use them as tools as well. As I said, it's great if you're not a big breakfast person. If you want simple structure to reduce your calories, this can be something that can help you. Another reason why I do it is because I prefer bigger meals instead of small meals throughout the day. And then what I'll say is, don't do this if you get dizzy, hangry, or you binge when you finally eat. Don't do it if you're going to train in the evenings and then eat. That doesn't make sense. You're going to go through your entire day. And another one, maybe don't do this if you have a history of disordered eating, because these fasts can just trigger unhealthy patterns. I hope you found this video helpful. If you need help with your diet, if you need a bit more advice, or if you want me to talk about intermittent fasting a bit more in detail with you, send me a message and let's work together.